Like you said, he's got 3 rings, right? And just to clarify, none of those rings are with Toronto, right?
Is Fraser Minton going to have more points than Slavkovsky this year? Fraser Minton sucks at hockey. This guy might not even be an NHLer, so we got to settle down on that one.
Adelaide, no. Minus 160 on will they show her holding a drink in her hand.
They are 2 points behind the St. Louis Blues in the wild card, and they are.
Oh, the Blues are dog water. The Blues suck. The Blues are the worst of those 4 teams that I mentioned by a mile.
And
they're not a good hockey team.
Care, like have some set of balls, have some response, have some pride for what the hell goes on the ice. It's so absurd.
I'm looking forward to the parade, but that's going to be later in the year.
I'd rather have so money in that than have Alber Soderblom. I would rather stack a bunch of garbage that I have in the corner of my room over here than have Alber Soderblom in that. He's
March 7th, welcome back to Edgework, presented by STX. I'm Zack Phillips, joined here on this Thursday morning, one day away from the NHL trade deadline by So Many Sports and Rusty Bill. So we'll break down the 12 NHL games on the schedule tonight. We'll give out our best bets, talk about some of the trade market, answer questions in the chat there as well. Today for us, big card, but not as much, or big schedule, big slate of games, but not as much on our card so far here tonight. So if there are games you guys are looking at, if there's games you guys have questions about, you want to know, you're leaning towards, maybe you're just looking for some advice or an opinion on, please send them in the chat throughout the show here. We'll try to answer those as we go along and get to some of those in the chat, including futures and trade deadline discussions. So make sure to be active in there. We will be reading them and we will try to answer as many of those questions as possible. But before we can get into the picks, before we can get into questions, futures, trade deadline stuff, I want to remind people that our brand new sponsor of the show is STX. If you haven't already, make sure to sign up for the STX betting exchange. If you're sick of getting limited and profiled, STX is a unique sports betting exchange that offers higher limits and better pricing. STX offers a fair and real-time marketplace for users to bet on the outcome of sporting events, offering better odds in a peer-to-peer marketplace. STX is the best option for anyone who wants to wager on live sports. Make sure to add STX to your list of outs and sign up today. Get commission-free trading when you sign up now. The option is yours at STX. Gentlemen, interesting day there yesterday. We talked about how the record doesn't matter that much, and if you were to look at our record, you look at our ROI, and you look at the units we're up on the season, that would be very, very indicative of that statement there. 279, 281, and 10 on the season, 571 bets. We're below 500, but we have a 4.9% ROI. We are up 28.5 units right now. And yesterday we go 1-2 on our picks. We lose the under 6.5 there in the Avs Red Wings game, which went over by the Red Wings alone, and yet we cash a regulation draw thanks to Alex B. Smith. So we go positive on the night, and it doesn't matter how many you win or you lose, as long as you're up money at the end of the day, I guess, is kind of the best way to go about it. So continue that on here today. A couple of games that we've got locked in so far that we will be taking a look at and giving out best bets for. But let's get into the schedule here. And Russ, we'll go to you first with this Edmonton-Columbus game. The Blue Jackets are hosting the Oilers here tonight, and we're seeing a total of 6.5 here in this one. We see the money line at plus 235 for the Blue Jackets. The Oilers at minus 250. What are your thoughts on this game tonight? And do you have any interest in having any type of bet?
Yeah, yep. We played the over 6.5 here. Currently sitting at minus 130. That's about as high as I would play it to. Honestly, it has moved. It's moved overnight. Anything other than that, I probably would just pass. I don't want to take a plus money 7 here because my numbers have this game landing on 7 the majority of the time. So I think, lock in that minus 130. If you have minus 133, minus 135, I think that's probably okay to play. So let's call the cutoff there at minus 135. This is a kind of a fun game for me here. Normally we have played a few Oilers unders, but Skinner's starting to slip a little bit, and now they're getting this Blue Jackets team who's extremely hot on offense, 3rd in expected goals for over the last month. Obviously, we know that the Oilers can score, at will, pretty much against anybody. And then we should see Daniel Tarasov in net for the Blue Jackets, who's certainly one of their not as good as Merzlikins for sure. So two kind of middling netminders against two very, very good offenses here. And not to mention the Blue Jackets are absolutely terrible on defense. Their game totals have been 8, 9, and 7 over the last 3 games. So this Blue Jackets team is a team I want to target for overs, and I think Edmonton's a perfect team to do that with. So my numbers have north of 7 here. I think the majority of the time you will see it land on 7 in this game, whether it's a 3-3 game, closer than a lot of people think, or whether the Oilers get to 5 here. I think the Blue Jackets can put up 2 on their end. So I think over 6.5 is a good way to go. I wouldn't play it too much higher than -130, but yeah, let's go ahead and lock that in as the first play. Over 6.5 is good for me here.
Yeah. And we'll grab that -130. And as Russ said, there were a bunch across the board. There are -130s. There's some -133s out to -135. And that's kind of the cutoff point for us here this morning. So lock that in, and everyone should be able to get it as of right now if you are watching. So, Money, what are your thoughts on this game tonight, where things are priced at?
Yeah, it's two teams that are conflicting in style right now. Columbus is an over team. We've established that we've been betting their overs. Edmonton is an under team, and they've been like that all most of the season, I should say. So we have two teams here where one team wants to get after it, the other team just knows how to play strong defense structurally. But which style wins out, right? It's usually the better team who gets to dictate the pace of the game, right? So, but in this situation, even if Edmonton does want to slow it down and tighten up, like why, right? Like they can do whatever they want in this game. So, I've got nothing on this game, but I'm more interested to see what kind of pace that we have and what kind of style wins out. I'm also interested to see if Edmonton, in this kind of situation against a team that does want to get after it, if they do revert to their past style of running and gunning, or if they stick to their guns with the way that they've been reestablished now for most of the season.
All right, let's continue to move on here for games tonight that we've got bets in. And the next one, we'll take a look at the Penguins-Washington Capitals game. This one's a weird one because as we are one day away from the trade deadline, it just feels like a very different era that we're looking at here. We're watching this Penguins team getting ready to sell off pieces ahead of tomorrow, watching the Capitals team move guys out. You're hearing different names on their roster that could potentially be moved out before 3 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow as well. And this is not what we're used to between these two teams. But as they get ready to head into tonight, the Penguins are still favored here against the Caps, -160 for them. The Capitals +146, which is best price available over on Stacks there. And then a total of 6 that we're seeing. We can see -114 best price. You see it creeping out to like -120 range in a bunch of different spots. And then we're seeing it even hit that 6.5 here at some books. Russ, where are you at ahead of this game tonight? And do you have any interest, side or total?
Yeah, like you said, this is an interesting handicap for someone that does a player's model. You kind of have to project the lineups for each team. Not exactly sure who we're going to have in for the Penguins, but that's not stopping me here. We're going to go back to the well. We've been hammering these Caps overs for the last month or so, and it's just been great. So I think this number is a little bit short. Probably should be 6.5, -110 across the board. So I think that over 6 at -114 is a great play at Pinnacle. Yeah, we played that earlier this morning, pretty much the same number. I think you probably see that drift up a little as the day goes on. As you can see, some of those numbers are starting to settle around 6.5. So I think this is a little bit off market number, and I'm happy to play it. My numbers do have closer to 7 here. A couple different reasons. This Caps team is certainly trending as an over team. Their defense has not been great, and their offense has been generating quite a few different chances. And their goaltenders are just struggling immensely, whether it be Lindgren or Kemper here, who I think we're going to get Kemper. I don't think it really matters. 30th in save percentage over the last month. This Caps team just can't stop anything. And then on the offensive side, they've been generating a ton of shots. Like I said, we've been hammering the overs. overs in the 8 of the last 9 games for this Washington Capitals team. I would say we've been on probably 5 or 6 of those. And this Penguins team's an interesting team for me. Kind of thought that they were a offensive juggernaut at the beginning of the season. That burned me a few times, betting on them, betting on their overs. So we kind of got off of it. But then the last month or so, they've been playing great offensive hockey, had finally started to score some power play goals, and their defense has been struggling all the way down to 24th in expected goals allowed over the last month for this Penguins team, which has transitioned to or translated to overs in 5 of the last 6 for this Pens team. So both of these teams profile as over teams for me. You kind of have two average goaltenders or below average in the Caps situation. So, and my numbers have 6.9 here. So I think over 6 is a great play, especially at minus 114. So that's the way we're going for the second bet of the day.
All right, there you go. Second bet of the day locked in. So Money, any thoughts from you on this game? Do you have any interest?
Yeah, I'm just reading the Penguins notes from the morning skate just now. So Gensel was in a normal contact jersey. I mean, obviously, I'd be shocked if he plays. Right? There's no reason to get him back in the lineup tonight. But Brian Rust also skated this morning. Yeah, I'll be passing on this game. There's just there's too many variables here on the Penguins in terms of where they are headed into this game in terms of their mindset. And also, quite honestly, I've been turned off quite a bit. They're one of those teams that I was particularly high on, and they just beat my ass this year, right? So I'm hesitant to get involved in Penguins games as it is. So I will pass here. I'll cheer for us, but they've just beat me too hard this year, so I'm gonna pass on this one.
All right, well, keep moving along here. We got another one, and again, if you guys are looking in the chat right now and you've got games on tonight's schedule that you're interested in, maybe you haven't got there, or you've made the bet and you want some advice or you want an opinion on it, please send it in the chat here. Now we will try to answer as many as we can throughout. If you have any questions about the deadline, futures, whatever, anything like that, we'll try to answer those as well. But let's keep it moving. Next game of the night that we'll take a look at here, the Boston Bruins playing host to the Toronto Maple Leafs tonight. Boston minus 134, the Leafs plus 127. Yet again, best price available on the Leafs there at Stacks. A total of 6 for the most part here throughout the market. You can find some pretty cheap over 6s right now. So Money, where is it that you're coming in on this game? What bet is it that you like?
So we've talked about Boston that they haven't been able to elevate their play for the last little bit here. Even their win against Toronto. Again, the final score says 4-1. That wasn't a 4-1 game. I don't think that. I thought that Toronto played well. They were stymied against some good goaltending, which could happen when you're playing Boston, obviously. But I do like Toronto here. I think that when you look at the closing number in Toronto after the Boston Toronto game, and then you adjust for Toronto's back-to-back, we're still coming in inflated on Boston. So that's the reason why I did play Toronto. I have them down to plus 118. That I do like Toronto. So we can lock that in. Toronto, I've been fine with Toronto's play for the most part. Again, you can look at the final score and be like, well, they only beat Buffalo 2-1 in overtime, but who cares, right? Like you're playing Buffalo in between Boston games, right? Like you want to just get the win. So I thought that it was a professional win by the Leafs last night in a pretty difficult situation in between the Boston games. So I have no problem with the way that the Leafs are playing right now. And like I said, in that Boston game, I didn't score that a 4-1 loss. So so we still have the edge here on the Leafs in this game.
All right, plus 127 there. Russ, is there anything for you that you've been looking at here in this game tonight?
Yeah, I kind of been going back and forth on this game. I think it's probably one of the best games on the board, especially the best game of the early slate. But I completely agree with everything that so many said here. This Leafs team we have played on quite a few times over the last couple of weeks, and this Boston team is a team I sort of want to play against. Their numbers are really struggling, to be honest with you. All the way down to 20th in expected goals for, 21st in expected goals allowed. And the Leafs been playing really well, but for whatever reason, the Leafs cannot beat this Boston team. They're 0-6 in their last six meetings against this Boston team. I'm not sure what it is, between good goaltending or just getting in their heads or whatever. But yeah, we did have Toronto in the last game against Boston. As so many said, that was not indicative. The final score was not indicative of how the game went. If you look at expected goals, it was actually 4-3. Toronto Maple Leafs were ahead in expected goals. Now they just didn't get the bounces that they needed and got some good goaltending there. So I do tend to agree. I think this game is a little bit more 50-50, which probably leads to like maybe Boston minus 115, minus 120. But there's just a couple of things that are keeping me off of it, like these intangibles, how for some reason Toronto cannot beat Boston, 0-6 in their last six games. But when you're looking at value, I do think it's a little bit inflated. If you're getting that plus 127, I think that's certainly the way to go. Another thing is I sort of leaned into over here. My numbers do have this game over, but I think that's just a product of not having a ton of data on Joseph Wall, who I have projected tonight. His numbers aren't great, but it's such a small sample size that I don't quite trust it yet. And it seems like these two teams sort of want to play a slower pace game, more low event. But I could see this game getting to 3-3 in the third period, and honestly maybe going to overtime. I think if Alex B was here, he'd probably hammer the draw, which is not a bad play or idea. But no, I think I'll pass on this game. Gun to my head, I would lean towards the Maple Leafs at that price. I think it probably should be a little bit lower, like so many said. So no play, but generally I do agree with so many's play and everything he said on this one.
All right, I have something for people. I'm not going to lock it in because the price is not widely available, but like you might as well go take a look at it because the book most people should have access to. It's something I played. Someone like I talked to who does props as well has played this as well. Matthews anytime goal at plus 115. We've been playing this all the way to like minus 105 range. Kind of even have had games where we've played it at minus 110 and being pretty comfortable with it there. We saw it yesterday at minus 115, minus 120. He scores, and now all of a sudden there's a book out there that is the blue and white book that is at plus 115 right now, best price, and everywhere else is kind of sitting at minus 105, minus 110. Now, I know traditionally they're pretty good with their prop prices. It's something that we've kind of looked into a little bit there. I'm sure you guys are aware as well, but that plus 115, regardless, is something that we've kind of considered worth a play here this morning. I bet it myself. I know there's some other people who are on that Matthews anytime goal at plus 115 as well, just especially based on where his prices have been. So I'm not going to lock it in because it's not widely available for people, but that's one that we found here this morning. And because that book, a lot of people do have access to it, whether you're in Canada or the US, it's been another one that we've continued to have interest in so far this season. Those were the three bets that we had ahead of time here tonight. If anyone has any questions here in the chat, continuing to move forward, we'll continue to look at. If you haven't already, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications. Another reminder to people as well. Tomorrow for the trade deadline, we'll be here on the show. I believe Moretto said 1:30 to 3:30 we'll do leading up to the deadline, and then just kind of recapping everything that goes on right after what's going on throughout the day. If there's any adjusted prices on futures and stuff that we should be taking a look at, that we are going to take a look at. But before we kind of end off with picks here today and games that we're looking at, I'll throw it back to you guys and open up the floor a little bit. So, Money, are there any other games that you're looking at today that they're not there right now? You don't have a bet in. You haven't really got there on an interest level, but you're hoping to throughout the day. You're waiting for injury information. any other games out there right now that you're just kind of waiting on?
Yeah, so I did play it just before we came on. The Canucks Golden Knights under 6. I've got that. Um, I'm not sure if plus money is available, but up to minus 110 is where I have this game. So Vegas. Okay, so let's start with the Canucks, right? So we knew that there was a regression coming. It was inevitable. There's thankfully their shooting percentage is slowly starting to come down, which is what we want while staying first in their division, right? That's that's the whole point. I listened to the Tuesday show, and Matt was saying that the whole point of the season is to get off to a fast start and sit on a lead and hold on to the lead, right? And that's the right strategy in an 82 game schedule. So that's what the Canucks are doing. Their numbers are falling as they should be. They're regressing back to where they should be, and that's fine. I'd rather have that happen right now and just stay first in the division. Um, so they are having trouble offensively, and I think that's the reason why we're seeing like talk about Gensel and like um, whoever the other Toffoli, right? Like real goal scorers, professional goal scorers in this league, right? Because as the Canucks struggle offensively here, what we're seeing is that um, if the well goes dry with two of the wingers in the top 6 of this team, they have trouble scoring. And so clearly Rutherford has seen that, and Alvin has seen that, and that's something that needs to be taken care of immediately, which I love, right? So like maybe we were wrong on the Lindholm fit. There was the third line injury that kind of made Lindholm not be deployed with Pedersen like the way that we had thought. So there's a lot of elements in play here that kind of made the Lindholm trade not work out the way that we had envisioned. But again, just everybody makes mistakes, right? Like just as long as you can identify the mistakes and try to fix it, which is what the Canucks are doing right now. So that's from the Canucks perspective. They are having trouble scoring. Demko is on top of his game, right? And they are better defensively, especially when they're going up against teams that are the upper echelon, which is still where I do have Vegas ranked, right? So, and like especially as they're getting healthy, I saw a note on their their potential defensive pairings, and it's just ridiculous, right? They're back. Yeah, that's going to be a problem in the once the playoffs start. So like I can see a Vegas team that's starting to kind of get it together, and even though they've been up and down lately, I think that again, I've been saying this all year about them. They do deserve that benefit of the doubt, and I think that they are, and they will be starting to get it together. And for them, what that means is that starts on defense first. So that's the reason I think this is going to be a low scoring tight game here.
You think so, Money, that we can get down to the arena and do enough like damage to put someone on the LTIR, but have them ready for exactly game 1 of the playoffs? Like, you think that that's within the realm of possibility? Because it might be something we both want to explore for our respective teams.
Yeah, I think that that might be the way that we have to do it. I mean, Vegas has excelled at that, right? So that's something that we'll have to do, I think.
Little Tanya Harding middle pipe to the knee.
I'm going to hear about that.
Well, I've made the joke enough myself, so I've already thrown myself under the bus for it. But yeah, I mean,
Zach made
Vegas. Yeah, I did. I sewered you into that one. Yeah, I know. I don't know. Look, also just to clarify as well, I have no problem with what Vegas is doing. I got none. Them, Tampa, a couple of years ago, however many years they've done it now as well. Like Colorado with that one's a little different, but we kind of anticipate that he might come back for the playoffs. You know what I mean? Like on LTIR, I got no problem with that. If that's what they're within the rules, that's within the rules. If you want it to change, it's the NHL who's got to change it.
Yeah.
It's not the teams themselves. It's within the rules. Play within the rules. Like, who cares? I think you should be doing it.
Yeah, they're not doing anything wrong, right? Like it's
No.
just I do the same thing if I'm in that position, right? Like just it's on the NHL to figure it out if it's such a big problem.
Yeah. Russ, anyone that you're eyeing to take a metal bar to kneecaps within the next 24 hours ahead of the deadline tomorrow?
Funny that it happens at the exact same time every year for Mark Stone. every February, goes out, and then every April he's back. So it's actually funny to see the timing over the last 3 or 4 years. But you're right, it's not against the rules, so there's not much you can do.
Yeah, I just find it funny. Like, it's like what Russ is saying. It's like, February comes around and Vegas has now put 4 players on the LTIR, and they've acquired every big name guy at the deadline. I'm like, well, fuck, imagine that. Like, shocking that one worked out the way it did. We do have a couple games here in the chat, so we'll get to those. But Russ, quickly yourself, any games that you're looking at here, haven't got to, waiting on news, waiting for markets to move, anything?
Not really. The one I had circled would be that Toronto-Boston over 6. I think it's not quite enough value for me there to play it. Like I said, there's a couple of intangibles with these teams just play each other very, very tight and a very low event every time they play. And then I just don't have a ton of data on Joseph Wall, who I expect in goal for the Leafs. This kid, he could completely stand on his head, or he could allow 4 goals on 20 shots. So there's a little bit of a variance there and uncertainty. So I think I will pass. I certainly like those other 2 overs a lot better, but that's really the only one I had circled. Other than that, I think these lines are pretty tight. Gets to be later in the year, and these odds makers kind of figure out what they're doing on some of these teams that we used to pick off. So, and I think they have moved quite a bit. So, just the 2 for me tonight. Unfortunately, I'm happy to chat about these other ones that people are bringing up.
Yeah. So Money, go ahead.
One more play.
Yeah. Go for it.
Nice.
Sorry, 1 second here. Blues Devils under 6.5. Couple of things here why that has just come into range. So we have the 6.5 total on a Devils team, right? So Devils, the problem with them has always been their goaltending this year and their defensive play. So you look at the Devils as a whole in the season, right? And they do profile as an over team. But they're playing a St. Louis team that we've talked about this many times, that they just can't generate anything, right? So if you look at this game from the Devils' perspective and you think that this game is going over, what do you make this number, right? So it's already at 6.5, right? Do you have a 7 in this game? You can't do that in a Blues game, right? So that's why you have the 6.5. Now, where the edge comes in for me is that yes, the Devils didn't look great defensively against Florida, but that's against Florida. So like I'm not. And that's the first game with the new coach, blah, 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 right? So, like, I'm not going to ding the Devils too hard on not playing strong defensively against Florida. But in this Blues game where Travis Green, like, he does want to tighten up defensively. So this is the kind of game where if the Devils are serious about tightening up their defensive game, then playing against a Blues team that can't generate anything, that is where I want to see if the Devils can do it. So that's where my edge comes in. I think that the Devils do want to tighten it up. We're at a 6.5 against a team that cannot generate anything. So if I'm right, then a couple of weeks from now, this game would be lined at 6. This particular game between these 2 teams. So that is where I've got the edge here on the under 6.5.
All right, under 6.5 minus 105. There you go. An extra one from So Money getting locked in there as we continue to move on and answer some of the questions from the chat for some games that people were looking at. Wow, a card of 3 that we had going into tonight might continue to expand here, boys. But let's take a look here. What we've got a question from Charles. Well, let's first start with the first game that he asked about, the Lightning Flames game. Thoughts on the Lightning over there? Charles is asking. This one currently sitting at 6.5. Pretty much everywhere you can find plus money as the best price available on that 6.5. Russ, I'll go to you first. Thoughts on where the total is currently sitting? Would you have a play? Would you have interest either side?
I think this is honestly lined about correctly. It's hard for me to pick, over or under. I think 6.5 is probably the right number. This Calgary Flames team has been kind of trending towards an over team as their defense has been struggling. But Markstrom has been playing great, and he's been picking up the slack that their defense has given them. So I don't really lean that way. And then you look at this Lightning's team who just really has not generated anything on offense lately. They're really, really struggling. 27th in expected goals for over the last month. They should be turning it on right now, trying to make a playoff push, and they're really not. So honestly, I'm not sure I would lean towards the over in this game. I think probably even 6.5 might be a little bit high. So I don't think I can. I don't think I could condone it over here with these two teams. I kind of envision a lower event hockey game, kind of maybe lower scoring, kind of tighter. I think it should be a very, very close game. So it's tough for me, but it would be a pass. I think that number's probably right on. If anything, maybe a touch high. So no, I don't like the over there.
All right. So money, any interest in this total? Thoughts on where the total is?
Not really. Vasilevsky is confirmed starting. I would assume Markstrom starts, but I wouldn't make that 100% at this point. Just because if he is being traded, why would you play him? And also, he's also played 3 straight games here. So I would need to wait on this game. I would project Markstrom to start, but I've got a lot of doubts there. So that's the reason why I will pass on this game for now.
Okay, next one that these guys are Charles is looking at here, the Ottawa under. So the Senators going to LA here tonight. If you're looking at price here, the Kings minus 173, the Sens plus 165, total of 6.5 plus money's on the over 6s there. You can find minus 110s out, minus 115s, that kind of range in this under between the Sens and the Kings tonight. So money, where do you come in on this total?
Yeah, the underlook makes sense. Especially in Kings games right now where they are tightening it up. But of course, the problem becomes what kind of goaltending are we going to get from Ottawa, right? So Sogard has been, well, lately at least he's been the better option because he's been slightly under league average, which is very good for Ottawa's goaltending so far this year. When you're just looking at the numbers throughout the whole season. So I do think 6.5 is a bit inflated. I would have liked it at a flat 6.5 better than the juiced minus 6.5. So maybe if it gets there, I'll be on the I'll be on the under there. But yeah, the any Kings under, especially lined at 6.5, that does make a ton of sense.
And Russ, thoughts for you here?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, this Ottawa team has kind of transitioned to an under team over the last couple months. 8 of their last 11 games have gone under. They're seeing a little bit better defense, and they're not scoring as much. So I tend to agree they do have a problem in goal, as somebody said. You nailed that. Honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if the Kings go out and score 5 tonight, and it does go over. But I would certainly lean under if it was closer to even money. It might even be a play. And then everybody kind of knows what this Kings team wants to be, how they want to play, low event, very good defensive team. So I lean that way. If you would have asked me 2 or 3 weeks ago, I probably wouldn't have said the same thing. We did bet quite a few Ottawa overs there for a while, but we've got off of them recently and for good reason. Like I said, unders in the 8 of their last 11, so they are trending that way, playing a little bit better defense. So I agree with that one. I like the under. I like the under look.
All right, and another game being asked here in the chat. Evan Alexander asking about the Islanders Sharks over 6.5. So if we go to that game, 10:30 here tonight. You can find sixes mostly across the board. You can find some 5.5s heavily juiced to the over on the 5.5s. But as Evan brings up there, you do see some 6.5s at plus 110, plus 115 within that range. Russ, what are your thoughts on the total and the idea of going over 6.5 at some decent plus money here?
Yeah, again, we used to play a ton of Islanders overs early in the season before they had Patrick Waugh. So they're no stranger to me. This team is extremely frustrating. I bet on them and they lose. Bet against them and they win. Bet on the under and it goes over. So I've kind of swore off the Islanders, but I would have a hard time going over here. These are two of the worst offensive teams in the league right now. And then you're looking at the Islanders, who are one of the best defensive teams in the league, top 3 in expected goals allowed over the last month or so. So I think the 6 is probably about right. Trying to go over that 6.5 with plus money is a little bit of a stretch for me. I don't think I would. I don't think I would condone that. I don't think I would look that direction. Like I said, 6 is probably the right number. These are two of the worst offensive teams in the league. So, that's not the way I'm going to look. Should be a pretty clean, tidy win for the Islanders on their hot streak here. Something like 4-1, 3-1, 3-0 would not surprise me. So I can't condone the over there. Nope.
All right. So money, I don't know if you were so disgusted with the game or Russ's answer or what, but hops off the screen, hops back in here. Thoughts on this Islanders Sharks game and the total of 6.5, the idea of going over here?
Yeah, I blame this on the Vegas people being upset with me right now.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough.
They're not too happy right now.
Yeah.
I was joking, you guys. Relax. But we're still on the Sharks game, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So the comments that I caught from Russ, I do agree with. I think that the Isles, they were an over team, a significant over team. They're not anymore. It's not as if they're playing strong defensively or anything. It's just that they're not as loose as they were earlier, right? So, but now you have a 6. I have a tough time getting there. So I'll pass on this game, but it's definitely not an underlook. I think that the flat 6 is fair.
Mm-hmm. All right, that'll do it for games for us here today. Boys, just to quickly wrap up as we are approaching the deadline. So Money, we'll get to talk to you tomorrow ahead of it, but Russ, this will be the last time we see you unless you hop into the trade deadline show tomorrow. But thoughts on the trade deadline here, Russ, and are there any moves that have shocked you so far? Anything you're excited for or hoping happens before 3 p.m. tomorrow?
Not necessarily. I'm interested to see where those Penguins players go. I think that will really shake up the league. I would love to see a goalie trade. I don't know why there hasn't been a goalie trade. So I think that, there's a number of goalies that could move. And then that Avs trade, man, I was a little bit surprised by that, but I love it. I think, I loved Bo Byram last year, but he's really struggled this year. And then to get a second line center in Middlestat for him, I think is absolutely a great move for the Avs. It seems like they have done something like this every year. And for most of the trades have turned out very, very well. So it shocked me that they got rid of Byram, after such a great year he had last year, but he just hasn't lived up to those numbers at all this year. So I think that was a great move. A little bit I was very surprised to see it, but I certainly agree with it for who they got for him. So no, it's been a good week, a good trade deadline. I expect some more surprises to happen, in the next 24 hours. But yeah, all good. I think, Avs made a good move.
And so Money, the Vancouver Canucks, we obviously have heard some stuff about them. It sounds like there was the possibility of 3-team trades and Gensel and moving on from Lindholm. And, this Canucks team has been active. They haven't been afraid to pull the trigger. What are you kind of expecting out of them as we get closer and closer to this deadline?
Well, if you know Jim Rutherford, and now we know him well firsthand here, nothing is off the table, right? Like he could just turn around tomorrow and just flip the whole roster because he feels like it, right? So, I do expect the Canucks to bring in a scorer. Hopefully, it's Gensel. If not, I think bringing Toffoli back home makes makes a ton of sense here. So yeah, I do expect the Canucks to pick up a scoring winger. I also expect them to pick up a depth defenseman as well.
All right. Well, we will be covering the trade deadline right here on this channel tomorrow. So make sure if you haven't already, you subscribe here, turn on notifications, like the stream here today. We will be back to break everything down tomorrow morning for more picks and previews ahead of tomorrow's games. We'll also be back here to break down and recap everything that's gone on throughout the day on the trade deadline show tomorrow afternoon right here on Edgework. So subscribe, turn on notifications, like the stream today, all that good stuff. So Money, are you gonna talk to me about Phil Kessel here? Is that what's about to happen?
No, I'm good.
Okay. All right. All right. Let's recap all the picks for today. Where we're at, you can find all the bets over in the BetStamp app in the Find Better section as Edgework HQ. If you do want to see how we've done throughout the season, you want to see us on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, checking out the picks for today. We do have 5 ahead of us here. So let's start with the Oilers Blue Jackets over 6.5. We're going to take the minus 130 in that game at over 6.5. Then we're going to go to the Blues Devils under 6.5 minus 105. We are taking the Maple Leafs money line against the Bruins plus 127. And then two more. We have the Capitals Penguins over 6 minus 114. And finally, the Canucks Vegas Golden Knights under 6 minus 104. Those are our picks for tonight. If you did enjoy the show here today, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. I'll be back here tomorrow morning with Alex B. Smith and So Money to close out the week and get you ready for the trade deadline show as that approaches for the NHL deadline at 3 p.m. Eastern time. Moretto and I will be back here tomorrow afternoon to break everything down, so you won't want to miss any of that. But thanks to everyone who tuned in here today. We'll see you back here tomorrow morning at 10:30 a.m. Eastern time. Enjoy the games tonight, and good luck on your bets.